all right.
I
know. What are you telling me?
Yes, I don't know which one this is. I was gonna come to lunch, get on this morning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and kick off the meeting tonight. If you would, please stand with me and let's repeat the pledge of allegiance proudly to our country. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Robin, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're very thankful for this day. We're thankful for all the new lessons that we have, and we're also thankful that we were able to come out tonight as friends and family to learn about him. And we're so very thankful for this country that we have. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Mike has it, I don't have it printed, and it's on the email. But,
Well, we leave tonight, the people of Goodwill ask that we please put our chairs back and leave it in kind of an orderly fashion. They've got somebody coming in, I think, tomorrow on some kind of an activity, so we want to make sure we do that. Let's see, I need for Robin and Julie to come here, and their mom and daddy. And how are you?
One of ours is MIA. She's running 101 fever.
I know that.
We decided not to infect y'all.
I don't have a certificate tonight because Daddy told me they weren't going to be here. However, they would have got a certificate, and Daddy told a story. So you are in timeout tomorrow, but I'm just telling you up front. That's the reason you didn't get a certificate.
So I'm on display instead.
Yeah. Anyway, we want to congratulate Robin, who went from technician to general now, general class. And our youngest member, Miss Julie Juju McCullough, who is 10, just went to technician. So, we congratulate you all. Thank you for coming up. And yes,
I might
sir.
add that Juju is the youngest person we've had yet to go through our test center.
Well, there we go. And you know, and we've got some more young folks that's coming up that's interested in ham radio, so they'll be coming up. Thank you very much for coming up. You will be getting a little something up from Deep South Amateur Radio Club. Yes,
Thank
you can.
you.
And, it's not mandatory for them, but it is for you. All right, let's start off too. Mr. Secretary, can you go ahead and read us last month's minutes?
Okay, Mike Hartman called the meeting to order at 6 p.m. He talked about auctioning off an AR-15, which he will get the price for. And I believe that there was a motion to go ahead and get the price for it and work on buying it to sell, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Mike, Brian, and Larry talked about field day and talked about all the results and everything from that. Mike also talked about checking into our net. That is so important. If you guys don't make a habit of doing it, and I'm pushing for an HF net somewhere, and I think your idea, I heard about it today after you, that's perfect. It's somewhere where we know we'll know where to go and what to do. So I want to encourage everybody to do that. Terry talked about field day and his club activities with his club, and I gotta tell you, I thought it was wonderful having them come down and work with us. Tim gave a report about the battleship, and the Ham Fest was discussed. There was a motion to spend the money for the repeater equipment, which I think that passed, if I'm not mistaken. And David Welch gave a fantastic presentation on grounding, and the meeting adjourned at 8 p.m.
All right, would anybody like to move the minutes be read and accepted as? All right, so we have a first and second on that, as minutes be passed. Our treasury continues to grow, which is good. And so we're proud about that. We've got several little things coming up that's going to increase it as well. Some really good ideas that people are coming up, including the sale of this AR-15 around Christmas time. That'll bring in quite a bit of dollars, because there's a lot of people, of course, would love to have an AR-15. Just the excitement of thinking about getting one of them is it don't matter if you got 10 of them, 11 don't hurt us. And so, we'll be doing that. Miss Treasury, Miss Sandy, would you, read us our, Treasury report, please?
This is basically the same balance that we had last month. You have $2,001.80 in the account. Now, I have a couple of checks that I just got because we've been out of town, so this will go up a little bit more, but it's the same as it was last month, $2,001.80.
All right, very good. One of the things that I lucked up on, when we bought the comparator, it was the man was wanting $200 plus $60 shipping, and I can see why the shipping was $60. It was quite heavy. And I wrote him back. He said, "Or make offers." And so I countered offered with $140 that would save us the $60 for the shipping. And I thought he would counter me with maybe $160 or $180, but he accepted our my $140 offer, and so we saved shipping, which was $60. So we got the comparator. It is really, really nice. It's in great condition. Gary has it. It has I guess it's what you call 8 voter receivers already in it, with the capability of, it has 4 more spaces where we can put 4 more in it. And so we are going to talk, and we are going to put, I have a connection over towards Hurley, Mississippi, that we will probably put he works on AM radio stations. I think we can get some tower space over there. They will probably donate us some tower space over that way. And that's kind of where we have a dead spot right now. We do want to, as we already have a lot of this tweaked up, as we keep saying, where we can sit there, we can have communications from Mobile to Pensacola, and Mobile to Chatham, and Mobile to Dauphin Island in 3 different directions, north, south, and east, or correction, yes, or no, north, south, and west, and within an hour. So realistically, helping each other, whether we're helping them or them helping us, that's a realistic reaction time in about an hour. So we're going to make that happen. And also, we're probably going to go from somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 watts to probably 150 watts. So we are fixing to triple probably our output. And there's other things we have in some works that are about to happen. So let me just promise you some things going on behind the scenes that will be talked about a little bit later on down the road. They're fixing to happen. Do we have anybody here tonight that's been here for the first time? Miss Linda, stand up. I'm not going to embarrass you. Miss Linda Williams. Yes, you in a striped shirt. Stand up for us. And tell us who you are. Linda Williams. I know it. I know we missed you. I know. I'm pretty sure I know who he is. Well, tell us your call sign while you're standing up there.
KM4QOD.
There you go. That guy looks like
I
Opie.
remember that one.
Hey, y'all remember Mayberry? Well, that's Opie right there. And he's grown up now. This is what he grew up to look like. Larry, stand up and tell everybody who you are and your call sign.
Hello, Larry. W4OPI.
Yeah, so guess where the Opie comes from?
I figured doing that make it easy to remember. Everybody sees me, then you'll remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. And sir in the back, stand up and introduce yourself.
Larry Hawkins, KM4ZFK, I live over in Seminole, Alabama, closer to Pensacola, for anybody doesn't know where that is, but, I'm in Five Flags Club, and been heard you talk about tires, so I was fixing to build one, so I wanted to come over and see if I could learn something.
Well, you are in the right house tonight, brother. Let me promise you. You're going to enjoy it. We've got some things here that's pretty interesting. Let me promise you. I know you haven't heard about the Mardi Gras Tower like probably 99% of the people in here, but we're going to show you the Mardi Gras Tower tonight. And I've kind of kept it under wraps. Joey, Mr. Don, a couple other people have seen it and kind of know what's going on. But it's one of the most dangerous towers that I've encountered, and we will show it to you a little bit later on. Let's see, we had an executive board on August 17th. We discussed several different things. I'm just going to go over, we're going to talk about the Hamfest more in depth next month. We talked about Mr. Paul came up with something that was extremely important for all of us, and we were talking about it, and I too happened to mention it to some folks. We have emergency frequencies that are set aside already. In a way, they're totally useless. And by that I mean, as I said to everybody at the executive board meeting, if this happens right now, I mean, the frequencies are nice and the brochure and the flyer and everything's fine. And if this happens right now, what do? And we sit there and me and everybody else didn't know what to say. And today, Larry came up with an idea that looked like this right here, and we talked about it. And this is a work in progress. This is nothing even close to anything that's going to happen just yet. But we said on the hour, whatever hour that the emergency happened, if it's at 5 o'clock, for example, we would start with 2 meter. And if that didn't work, something other happened and 2 meter didn't work, we would go to 6 meter. And if that didn't work, then of course you go to like 40 meters. And if that didn't work, you go to 60 meters. And this is it's a plan. It's a real good idea to start with right off the bat. And that's the thing. We have no plan, and so we're going to do that. We've got this idea. It's hot. It's hot an idea. We've got it up and running. We're going to do some stuff with it. We certainly want everybody's input on something like this. It's very, very important we have this. And I'm going to tell you why it's important. I am so surprised. I can't tell you. Officer Jackson and myself went to a city. It was kind of a celebration day. A lot of different crafts, a lot of different agencies there, different things. And EMA pulled up in there. God bless EMA, but they pulled up with this looked like $1 million truck. Got every kind of radio in it. They didn't know how to turn them on. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for Robert Jackson and myself that got in there, showed them how to stand up the antennas, how to plug them in. They had antennas, they didn't even know what they were. And if it wasn't for us showing them, then they would have been dead in the water had an emergency happen 15 minutes after they got there. And really, I'm thinking, thank God in a way, media was running around with their camera, walk over and said, hey, show us how that aircraft radio right there. They didn't know it was an aircraft radio. We turned it on, we see an aircraft frequency, we turned on some other things, got everything pretty well up and running, and we got it going. But this is what I'm talking about too. When they come up here and we're going through these classes, these emergency classes, and we sit up there and the 101s, 102, 105, 107, whatever they all are, and we're going through them, and they say that you can't come in this building unless you've got these classes. We have a plan. We've already got a lot of people going through these different classes, and no matter what, everybody here is eyes and ears. Am I going to sit up there and say, I want to see your ID before you sit there and give me pass any traffic or anything before before you come into a building or whatever that you can't talk on this radio? We are equipped. We're ready to go. And that's what I was talking about as well. If we had an emergency right now, how many of us are ready to sit there and pick up our HF rig, throw an antenna over a tree right now? And so we got one. There you go. Anyway, and he's lying. Anyway, so anyway, if for y'all don't know, I can just tell you, Joey's lying. Anyway, no, I'm sure Joey does have it, and a lot of us do have it. But the thing is, I'm saying is we are prepared. We can. A lot of us have. We can sit there and get us a piece of cord, go out there, throw it over a tree, and we can put us up an antenna and be up and running pretty quick. EMA is going to turn around and say, hey, we're going to need some help. And we're going to need somebody to operate these radios. I can promise you right now that probably 75% of the people in this room right here can get stuff online faster than they can. And we're going to be the eyes and ears for them, and it's coming. I don't know when. I'm not a doomsday person by no means. But right now, Hurricane, what's the name of it? I don't even know. Okay, anyway, they're talking about deploying about 500 cops and send us over there from all around the United States to start doing security and things. And so they're going to have, needless to say, the ham radio operators are spooling their stuff up right now as we speak as well. And so it's just a matter of time before we have another Katrina or whatever happens. And we're going to be spooling up things as well. We're going to be ready to do stuff like this. And this is going to come faster and faster as we get together with Paul and Larry and some of these other folks around here. We start getting these ideas together on these frequencies. It will happen, and we will have a plan. No matter what we do in life, we must have a plan. And what we're going to talk about tonight, to towers tonight, one of the first things that Larry will be talking about on towers is a plan. So no matter what it is, whether it's hurricanes or whether it's radio preparedness or simply setting up radio stations, you must have a plan. And so we will be spinning this up real quick very soon. Let's see. We had T-Ray asked different people to do the net, and different people have come to do the net. And there's certain people now that's more and more people are starting to come and do the net now Wednesday nights, and I appreciate that a lot. And I wish there, you know, that I want to share this with everybody. It's not very hard. And Brian Swearingen did it a couple of times now. He came to me and he said, I'd like to do it. And so I wrote him up a protocol to it, sent it to him. He did it one time at my house, did it one time at his house, did a great job. T-Ray does always, everybody talks about you, T-Ray, too. Your voice, they love your voice. Huh? Well, no, when your voice is working, everybody's talking about your back. I know it'll work too good tonight, but they're talking really good about what a nice radio voice you have to talk to everybody. And so T-Ray's always doing a good job on that, and I appreciate everybody else. And I just noticed Julie raised her hand a minute ago. You're certainly welcome to do that as well. We want everybody, as we say, this is a family club, and we want everybody to be a part of it. And so we will certainly let you do that as well. We went to...
The challenge still remains, Mike.
Say again?
The challenge still remains.
All right. And what was your challenge?
That everybody in the club do at least one net. If everybody did one net, at least one, it'd be probably a year before we had a chance to do it again. So.
That's right. And so we will... Then the challenge out there. We'd love for everybody in this room to do it. It's not that hard. You can't do it wrong. And it's just very simple things, reading the protocol onto it, just doing it. You know, I've been doing a little bit. I can hear your voice. I know who you are, man. But and Brian's getting better at it. Certainly T-Ray's getting better at it. You know, do it sometimes. Just let me know. And it's easy to do. It's nothing, like I said, you can't do it wrong. So do it. And it's very important we continue to do that, because you may, you know, if something other happens, you may be the one that picks up the radio and the first one on the radio to sit there. And if you're doing a good job, whether it's Steve and Martin, you know, halfway between here and Chatham that's doing it, then so be it. We don't care, just as long as messages get passed. And that's what we want to do, is show that we can do what we do. We've got our plan, and things will operate like it should. All right, we also went to the Dixie Amateur Radio Club and talked to them and told them what we had going on and how we're building things up with our repeater system here. And we also went to Lucedale, Mississippi's first tailgater, and they had probably about 20 people there, but it was, you know, it got off the ground pretty good. And so they really enjoyed us coming over to see them, and they appreciate it. General Daly was the one who sponsored the, he's also a repeater owner over in Lucedale Way, and I think he's going to allow us to put one of our repeaters. That may be one of our voters go on his tower over there. So we'll be making that happen as well. We did let's see, we did the Battleship on August the 12th and 13th. We made about 110 calls. Tim has really been good on making all that happen. The people over there are just ecstatic at us. They talk about us on the PA systems with the people who are there. We have quite a few people that come through, and we passed out quite a few cards. And whether they become a member of our club or whether they, you know, become a member of their own club, because we tell them it's nationwide, no matter where they're from, it's sparked a lot of interest out there. So we know we've done that. And a lot of times too, Mr. Don, he's one of the people, him and Tim, that give people kind of a brief of what we do with the communications from the ship. And I can tell you, my mailbox has been, because we're still using, we have to have a fixed address, so we just use my house as our fixed address. But we've had a pile of mail. Every time we do these things, I know that I'm fixing to get just an absolute mailbox full of people wanting our nice QSL cards that we have, and we send them out there to them. Another thing that's been talked about, Steve Hale has been kicking around the idea that, are we really happy with our logo? Do we want to keep it? Do we want to change it? He wants, like what I want, he wants what you want. And if there's some kind of an idea that you think maybe we ought to change it to, or something like this, he's come up with a few little things to, a couple of ideas. And so if there's something other that you think we ought to change it to, then get with us and let us know, and we can change it. You know, I like the idea of having an Alabama in the background. because we are, Deep South Amateur Radio Club of Alabama. And some of the folks have told me, well, how come we don't have Florida, Mississippi, and we're not Florida, Mississippi. We're Deep South Alabama. So I like that idea where they know specifically that it is an Alabama club. Steve Hill sent me an email saying that we're not on like 3 different sites, QRZ, ARRL, and another one. And I immediately wrote these people back. I have not got a reply from any of them yet. Imagine that. But anyway, and I said, we want to be on the map. And so I chase every email that somebody sends me or whatever. I try to act on it as soon as I possibly can. And I'm like him. I mean, we've got to get on the map with as much as we can with this club. I can tell you that our ARRL representative, Javon Martin, where's he at? Huntsville?
Yeah.
Yeah. He is thrilled to death with what we're doing. He wants to see more pictures, more information, everything. He's commending us like you wouldn't believe. And I'm sure we'll be in QST probably here sometime in the future with the operations we have going on. So that's going to happen too. Do you, Steve, do you have any more ideas on the logo idea or anything?
That's the what we'd like to do is for our,
Come on up if you'd like.
shirts made up, all the shirts or something.
Y'all can pass these around, but I'd like for everybody to come up with some kind of idea. These are a couple of ideas. And just whatever you think, whatever you like, so we can do it as a club and pick something that we want to do. But if y'all pass these around, just look at that to get an idea of something like that we can, put on our shirts. We'd like to have everybody kind of have the same shirt so that we can be identified. If somebody has questions, somebody needs something, we can help them out. But just come up with that, let us know.
And we're probably going to come up with some kind of a vest idea. And if you whether it's one like that Jay's got on or a reflective vest, it may be both. We would like to have something other when we're out in Huntsville or Dayton or wherever we are. I have run across a new job opportunity where I may be traveling around the world again, and it's just part-time. But I can tell you that according to one of my other friends who's been to Japan, the people over there absolutely love Americans, and they absolutely love American ham radio operators. Especially, it's like Dayton. It's like you're a superstar over there. So if we go over there, and if I have the opportunity to go over there, I certainly want to advertise our club no matter where I go, and let everybody know. Just continue to let this club grow, because that's what it's doing. I mean, I get calls all the time on all kinds of things, and people commending us on things like you wouldn't believe. And so we're moving forward. Everything continues to move forward. I'm thrilled about it. We have tonight's meeting is going to be on towers, as we talked about. We certainly have a very interesting meeting for tonight. Larry's done an exceptional job on putting things together. Remember that as I said before, whether you ever will have a tower, whether you have no interest in it, we're going to show you some things tonight that I could miss, and you could be the best tower guy out here, and you could miss. But then on the other hand, if Juju walked up and said, "Hey, did you ever see this right here? What's this, Daddy?" And we're going to show you something, and it's obvious even a child can sit there and point it out. That may save my life. It may save your life. And there's been a couple incidents that I've been involved with that where people have been given a 2% chance of living with one tower structure that fell. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen this person fall off that tower 1,000 times in my daydreams and my night dreams as well. When you see something like this and you sit there and you say, "Hey, that tower's strong and I don't have nothing to worry about," and other people have climbed it, your regular antennas that you have at your house, you should look at them at least once a year. Just a regular dipole antenna. Your regular verticals even. You should review your antennas at least once a year and look at them and see what happens. You're going to be surprised sometimes what you'll see, much less a tower. And whether it's 20 foot, as I tell everybody else, and as Joey can attest to when he tells the truth every now and then, that when you're when you're standing here and you're looking at, he's got like a 40-foot tower, 50-foot, whatever it is, and we're putting it up. And I told him, I said, you know, looking at 40-foot, 30-foot, standing right here, it's nothing. But looking at it from up there down here, it's a whole lot different. And there you go. There's a bunch of amens on that, and I give an amen on that too.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah. And there's our professional top tower climber right there. He just said, oh, it's not that bad. Anyway, let's have us a little break here right quick, like, and then we'll come back and we'll get into some of this stuff. And I think you're really going to enjoy the evening. Good presentation tonight. Thanks to Larry Anderson. He's got some stuff put together. And Mike Hartman. And we've got some show and tell for tonight you're going to find extremely interesting. Please pay attention to what we're telling you tonight, and please help us, each other, to stay safe. Some of this stuff is not just towers, it's just different poles and things like this that we've encountered, and anything can happen anywhere. Mr. Arley, right there you go. Tell us about your friend real quick, like.
I don't think Brownlee would have saved him. John Smith, W4ODQ, I don't know if any of you know him. He called me last Tuesday and said he took a direct hit a week ago Monday with that little thunderstorm. That little thunderstorm that just popped up out of the east. He took a direct hit. Part of his beam is laying in the backyard. I haven't been over yet to survey the rest of the damage, but I understand there are connectors blown apart. So he's probably lost rig, amplifier, rotor. Hopefully the MFJ took the brunt of it and saved the rig and the amplifier. I'll tell you more about that next Tuesday.
I helped put this tower under the beam antenna up, and it weighs right at 100 pounds. This was a big beam, and it wasn't. He's got a telescoping tower, but it was only about 20 feet probably, I think, off the ground. It's capable of going up about, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 feet, but he probably had it about 20 feet off the ground. It took it. Here we go again, talking about a tower doesn't have to necessarily be 100 foot in the air. And there's trees and other things around him, and he just got hit. Just like Steve, we were talking about with Mr. Herschel's antenna being, there's trees everywhere where Mr. Herschel is. 60-foot trees. Here's an antenna, what, 20 foot off the ground? Yeah, and he took a direct hit, boom, And so, as some of you witnessed before one of our talks, we'll do again one day. But anyway, I'd like for Larry to come up now and kick this off, and we'll start going from here. Kick it off.
Yes, sir. You're gonna have to leave, you're gonna be talking about climbing towers.
I have an agenda to add all this.
Good, yeah. Good evening, everybody. As Mike has said, we want to talk about something that's near and dear to all ham radio operators. And that's antennas and towers, which also includes poles, masts, anything else that's trees, maybe, if that's what you got, which a lot of us do, we use trees. And we want to talk about two things. One is procedures and ways to do this, and the other thing is, the most important, is safety. We all want to be safe. I get the 10th degree every time when I want to go on my tower. Somebody over here. And start off, I want to read this little couple sentences here to make sure that I get this all right here. The installation or dismantling of any antenna near power lines is dangerous. Each year, hundreds of people are killed or injured while attempting to install or dismantle an antenna. In many cases, the victim was well aware of the dangers, but did not take adequate steps to avoid hazards. For your safety and proper antenna installation, read and follow all the safety precautions. And we talked about some of that stuff tonight. First thing I want to bring out is choose the installation site very carefully. Now, it's your location. You probably have a few options, but maybe not too many, especially if you live in a restricted area. You may have to put up something stealthy, or you may have to hide it in the back. But not only is for purposes of propagation, but also for safety. We're talking about power lines. If you look up and you see these lines going across from pole to pole, most of us kind of know what they are, but it's not always obvious. You have power lines, you have telephone lines, you have cable TV cables, you have other things that are not dangerous, but would you bet your life on what they are?
Don't do that. Any of that overhead stuff with high voltage can kill you. Does not have to touch you directly. You do not have to climb up and grab hold of it for it to kill you. Also, do not place an antenna where it could fall or potentially fall onto or blow by wind into a power line. Determine the safe distance. One way that they suggested at the ARRL is measure your tower, the mast that goes on it, any antennas that you got on top of that, and then measure from the base of your tower out to the pole plus at least 10 feet. And some people say double the distance. But the basic thing is never put an antenna up where it can fall on a power line. In my youth, I put an antenna up and I thought it was secure. It just happened to be a piece of old big heavy duty water pipe. It had a coupling, it was screwed together. The coupling broke. I didn't know it was going to do that. But it was rusty. And it fell right on the power line in the middle of the night in a windstorm. Power company had to come out. That was a lesson to me. Don't ever do that. Don't ever use a utility pole to support an antenna. It belongs to the power company. Now, if you buy your own pole, of course, you can put what you want to on it. And I know another person that, in his youth, fastened a dipole onto a power pole, the center connection, and ran it down to the fence. One day he came home and his antenna was gone. Somebody came and pulled it off. I don't know who did that. Also, antennas, all outside antennas, should have a good ground. I think we've beat that horse a lot here lately, and that's a good thing. Always make sure you got a ground. You got height and other restrictions too. Generally, the FAA says anything below 200 feet is good, as long as it's not up against an airport. So 200 feet is the legal limit away from an airport in most cases. It could be some extenuating circumstances that changes that. Take time to plan your installation. We'll go over that some more in a minute. Also use an approved safety belt. And one of the things that they also suggested is never work on a tower up high off the ground when it's wet, windy, or snowing. We don't have to worry about that too much here, do we? If you read QST and CQ and some of those magazines, in the springtime they say, okay, antenna weather is getting here. Well, for us it's just the opposite. It's too hot to get up there on the tower when it's in the middle of the summertime here. Our antenna working weather is usually from the fall through to the spring. Back up a little bit, if for some circumstance, by some circumstance, your antenna or tower mast or something falls against the power line, don't get near that thing. We all know that. Don't touch it. Also, if somebody else gets onto something like that accidentally or whatever, don't touch them because you could also receive a shock. It could injure you or it could kill you. Another thing, towers that are not self-supporting, like guide towers are not self-supporting at any height. I know of a guy that said he went up, he stuck 2 or 3 sections together, and he went in and put up maybe 4 sections. Wow. And then climbed on up and then put the guy wires on it.
You call, sir?
I called.
It's Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder. Another thing I want to talk about here is used towers and used antennas. Mr. Hartman, can you tell us anything about this piece of tower? Where'd you get this and tell me the circumstances?
I got this from a good friend of mine, and he gave me a deal on it.
Oh, really?
And I trust him. He's a good friend of mine, told me it was good. I gave him $5 for it, I got me a good deal on it.
Okay. Well, have you climbed it?
I have not. I'm fixing to.
Have you looked at it and checked it over real good?
I looked at it, I kinda looked at it myself. Would you like to look at it?
Well, let me see. Yeah, I'd like to check it over a little bit.
I appreciate it. Maybe I'll miss something.
It looks pretty good. Ooh, yeah, hey, that's sturdy. That's really good. We can move around here and make sure it's down, it's real good. Does anybody,
What about that
does
old-
anybody see anything wrong with this tower?
Crack in the pipe.
I saw a female hand raised up. Anybody see anything? Joey, do you see anything wrong?
Guide wires are tied to the.
Yeah, they're tied wrong, aren't they? But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the tower itself.
What's wrong with it, Juju? What's wrong with it?
There's a crack in it.
Yeah.
What was I saying earlier?
You see the crack.
Even a child can walk up and sit there and say, hey, did you see this, Mr. Mike? There's a crack in it. Now, somebody tell me why that crack's there.
Froze, water frozen.
Exactly right. These legs were, they were not in the ground properly. They didn't have like a French drain to them. It got water into it. I'm gonna tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I cut into a pipe one time on a tower as I was fixing to take it down, and I swear I thought I hit a water line. It squirted out. It squirted out the bottom of it, probably about 8 feet out of it, and it ran out of it for several minutes. And it was full of water. Go ahead.
Now, tell me about the French drain. What's a proper way to make sure that you don't collect water inside the tower?
Well, one of the things you want to do is you want to take and have your sand, put sand in the bottom of it, put you a little bit of sand, put you a cement block on it, set your tower on top of it, put rocks like gravel, some kind of either pea gravel or any kind of rocks in it. So when it sits on it, and you do pour concrete around it, the legs will drain. You want to make sure that the legs will drain on it. Because for two reasons. If you don't do it, this right here is going to happen to it sooner or later. And this right here will happen to it as well. When I work on a tower, one of the first things I do to a tower, I generally you can use a crescent wrench, you can use whatever you want to. You can use a ball peen hammer is what I generally use. But I walk up to it and I tap it. That sounds pretty good, don't it? What does this sound like? I can sit here and knock holes in this with no problem at all. This, you may not see it on the outside, but this is what it looks like on the inside. And it will fail on you and it will fall. I've had towers before that when they were sitting there like this right here, the towers had moved. Instead of a piece coming in the ground like this, a whole half a section turned, and they were this rusted, like this right here at the bottom. Now we have things we can do to make a tower safe, and what you can do also is sit there and go up. You hear how it gets solid like that from down here at the bottom. And so instead of hearing a loose, and you'll also hear a thud if it's got water in it, you'll hear more of a real thud type sound in it. And so, yes, that's what we do. We sit there and we have a drain on to prevent water coming up like this right here, Larry, and keep it from breaking.
When he's talking about putting a block under it, don't put the block under here. Put the block under here. Everybody see that? It holds these open here. And you put the sand or gravel around it, and then you put your concrete on it. That way it leaves these open, that water can drain. Now you'd think, if you stacked another piece of tile on top of this, the water would run down it and not go in it. But over the years, the water will get in it, and condensation will develop in it, and it will fill this thing up, and then you're gonna have something like this right here. Okay, what kind of tower is this? What brand of tower is this right here, Mike?
That is a Rome 25.
This is Rome 25. That is the most popular tower in the country for hams and also for commercial. You also got a bigger one than this called a 45. It's used on some of the bigger ones like radio stations and some of the other installations. This kind of tower is not a self-supporting or freestanding tower. It is what we call a guide tower. Now, where should we guide at? What's some of the things that you've seen? Some way you've seen towers guide.
Again, the guy at the flea market told me, he said, I can go up here, it's really easy, Larry, and I can just put it right there, I can slip it right over the top. What do you think about that?
And then what are you gonna do to keep it falling off? You put another section on top?
Yeah, we'll just put another top.
It can't come off, can it?
It can't come off, so what's wrong with that?
Well, what is the weakest point of any tower we stack together? The joint. That's right. The joint is the weakest part. And what causes that is you've got no X's above this, between this one and the next one. So that is the weakest point. Never guide here. Always go at least 2 of these segments down or up, either end, depending on how your insulation is. My top section on mine is 2 sections up. It's like right here on the one at the top. So that puts it in the strongest point. Now, another thing. How many clamps did you have on each guy wire? Minimum? 3.
How about 1?
What could happen?
Well, I don't know, you tell me, I mean, I'm
Okay.
learning about this.
You got what we call friction could actually pull through one of these things. But if you put 3 and tighten it down, you see how this one's tightened? It kind of, it don't necessarily crush it, but it's sort of, you can tell it's tight. It should be always tight. Never just tighten it up a little bit. Tighten it until it won't go anymore. Don't tighten it until it breaks the bolt, but tighten it up good. Now this is a fairly small clamp. I always like to use at least the next one bigger than that, which is the bolt itself is 1/4 inch. Uses 1/4-20 nuts on the back of it. This is sufficient in most cases, but I like to go, it doesn't hurt to go 1 step further.
Well, let me ask you something else. Can I just, I mean, it don't matter how we put the clamps on there, do it? Can we just put it just like that right there? Opposite every other one, that makes sense. It's pulling apart each other.
Okay, now let's think about something here. You have one end of this cable you call the bitter end. This is not the bitter end. The bitter end is the one, it's the end up here. That should take the least amount of crushing power. You see that right there? You don't want to crush the main line, I call it the main line here, by putting the little small bolt on it. You always want it to be like this. You want always the main line to have the saddle, what we call the saddle of the clamp.
Never saddle a dead horse.
That's right. This is called the bitter end, or the dead horse, you might say. Okay, another thing. When you come to the end of the cable, right here, you see something, you see what's here? Can you see there? That's tape. Is that tape to hold to give it strength?
Somebody didn't have nothing to do.
There's good reason. What's the reason for taping this up? What?
You won't get stuck.
That's right. These things right here, these ends, say if this come out like this, like that, you climb it up and down, you look around like that, and you can poke an eye out. Always tape these up or clamp them. The other way is, this one here is clamp, looked like it had some tape on it one time. Clamp it close to the end so that it doesn't fray out. Now the word fray can be used frayed or unfrayed. Same word. Okay, another thing to talk about here on guide. Can you see how this is run through? Can anybody see this? You see the positions this goes through? Is that right? If I were to say this, pretend this right here is around this section right here, and I slide it down. Is that the strongest way to do it?
Will it also have a possibility of breaking these welds?
What is the weakest point on this thing is the weld. I might have said the weld. So what you do is, you see how this cable, the loop goes around the backside of this? So not only is this thing holding the pipe, this here comes into play too. So to get this, to break this weld loose, you would have to break this. This is 5/16 rod, steel rod. It ain't gonna break. This cable's not gonna break it for sure. But under a stress, this weld could break if you were pulling on the pipe. Always run it through this side and this side. See, whoever put this on didn't put it through this side here. Does that make sense? You got anything to bring up? Go ahead and say it.
Realize there are a lot of these cables, just in case people don't realize, some of these cables, they have hundreds, if not upwards of 1,000 pounds of tension on them when done properly. So they will break towers.
That's a good reason. There's a good reason for that too. You don't want it. What is in the wind? What do you not want your tower to do?
Move.
You don't want it to move. What could moving metal back and forth cause? Friction. And there's another thing too. Fatigue. Who said that? Metal fatigue. Exactly. Metal fatigue. You ever seen a piece of metal bend back and forth? What happens? It breaks.
And these
Tower can do
holes,
that too.
these holes will elongate if they move back and forth.
That's true.
They will elongate, and you don't want that, because then you're making the joint even more unsafe. We're not experts on this, we want to tell you as well. He's had a lot of experience climbing towers, and so have I. I've been doing it for a long time, off and on. And the things, again, I'm gonna show you some more things tonight that'll it'll get your attention.
One more thing about guying. What are you gonna fasten this to down at the ground level? Several different ways you can do it.
Back of my truck.
Yeah, you can do it back of your truck if you're gonna leave your truck there.
He lives in Woodward, the bucket truck.
Normally,
The broke down car.
yeah, jacked on the blocks and everything. Normally you have, most people have some kind of a pole or pipe or something sticking out of the ground so that you can mow around it. You ever try to mow around a guy wire on a ride mower? You take your head off if you don't watch it. If your pole or whatever you're fastening to will move like that, that's not satisfactory. That will cause the tower to move, and even the pipe could break off if you've got a pipe. I know a guy right now who's got one that's got a pipe loose like that. It's kind of shaky. He's got a little small pipe like this. I myself, on mine, I have telephone poles that I've cut off, like 10-foot poles, and buried them in the ground, about like this. That's safe. Telephone poles can last you a long, long time, probably as long as the tower will. I cut the pole, and you know what? If you cut a pole into, you expose the end grain, and it could theoretically rot through the middle. Always make sure you put copper talks or some of that wood penetrant stuff on it to block moisture from getting in it and keep insects from boring in it.
Would the Cadillac way to attach those to the sections would be with shackles and fences?
You mean to a pole?
Yeah.
Here, you mean? Just like this?
The other end,
Just, the other end?
yeah. It's just like
The other end, they make an eyelet. Oh, here.
Most secure would be, and have no problem, ever, if you put a thimble, put the cable through a thimble and put the thimble
Yeah,
through a shackle right there.
No, I don't know that I've ever seen a thimble that would go around this right here
Well,
for a
still
small
got
cable.
He's talking about the shackle.
Oh, yeah, right, and they make a thing that bolts across here.
Like a torque bar goes across.
Right, a torque bar, it
That's
sticks
the
out,
problem.
it sticks out like this, and it keeps the power from twisting in the wind. And you can hook it on there, and they're really, really strong. If you look at some of these cell phone towers that are guyed, you can see those on it.
And some of them are really big.
Yeah.
But they're for a reason. They're technical. They're made like that technically and for a reason, and they work really well. Let me tell you something else too. And this happened to me. And thank God I'd heard about it, and thank God I didn't do what I was asked to do. And Danny was there. We were working, taking a tower down about 50 foot tall. It was behind a house. It had probably, what, a 45-degree grade on the back of it. Yeah. And one of the guys there, he's a nice guy and everything, he said, and he's still a guy, he says, look at it, Mike, it's there. You don't have to worry about it. It's there. And so I'm up 20, 30 foot, something like this, last set of guy wires on it. He said, just drop the guy wires, drop the guy wires. He said, it's in a concrete, you can see it, it's in a concrete, looks like a pillar going into the ground. It's there, Mike, you can't move it. And you couldn't move it, it was there. And I told Danny, I said, he's standing off the side, I said, look, I'm gonna loosen this side up here. You know, each section weighs about 35 pounds. And there was 3 sections I'm on, so we're talking about 100 pounds. And I'm holding on to it, and I've got control of it, I'm okay. And I stood there and said, Danny, look at it, and tell me if this thing starts to lean more, and tell me what the bottom of the tower looks like. And so I started turning loose of it, moving it over. He said, stop, stop. He yells at me, stop. It wasn't in the ground, it was sitting on a concrete pad. It was sitting on a concrete pad about this thick, am I right?
Yep. Oh, no.
There's one other guy who had an accident for that same reason. He shook it, he sat there and he said, it's solid, I don't have anything to worry about. He took the guy wires off of it, he woke up a South Flight helicopter. Yeah, and had I been on there and just decided to drop this thing off of here, the one that's going towards the front yard, not only would it have fell, instead of going 90 degrees with enough to kill me, I would have had another, probably, another 15 degrees, or not quite that much, for it to build up enough speed to go down like this, and we probably would not be having this conversation today. So you would be having it without me for sure. So never get up there and say, okay, you know, I love Larry to death. He's a great guy. And he loves me. It's like sitting there, Steve and I, if we pat down a bad guy, am I going to get offended because he patted him down? No, sir, buddy. We want to make sure we're safe. You never take anything for granted. That down there in the ground is in the ground. It's solid. Don't have anything to worry about. And I'm saying, you sure, Larry? Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, pretty sure ain't sure. You know, you would check it. It's your life. It's your life. It's your own. Or you're sitting there telling me, you know, I said I checked it. I saw him. I saw him when they built it. I'm sure. You know, but then she says, you know what? I forgot. It was another house. So you always, always, always never take anything for granted like this. You always, you know, double check it time after time again.
Oh, okay, I got another question for you, Mike. When we got to put this cable up there and we're tightening it up to the ground, do I just pull it with my strength to tighten the cable up?
No, with David's truck.
I use something else to do that. What do you call these things here? Turnbuckles. Talk to us about the turnbuckles.
This one right here.
That's when it gets low, that's what I heard.
Yeah, right. Again, don't listen to the guy in the pink. The pink shirt should give it away right there. Anyway. So, you know, this one right here is one that I took off a tower where a guy was given 2% chance of living. He's a Christian guy. That's the reason he's alive. In my opinion, that's the only reason he's alive. And like Larry said, you can see where these ends opened up on this. And I learned something. I mean, the bad thing about this is you get over there and you look at them, it's a human mistake. We're all human. This is a manufactured, molded, regular Rome Tower turnbuckle. It cannot open. It's molded. It's made like this. It cannot open. And so you're looking over there and you say, oh, then, you know, you don't walk over there. If you look, you're standing over there. And I don't wear glasses for a reason. I need them to see. And so I'm sitting there, I'm saying, I guess it's good. I guess. You know, and so the same guy's with me. It looks good, Larry. You know, I think we can go ahead and climb it. There's two of these, or there was 2 or 3 of them, and there's one of these. And so when he got up on it, and it's the only time that he and I, again, probably we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight had I went up there with him. I was really sick that day. I had a cold. I told him, I said, if you don't mind, I'm going to stay on the ground today. I don't feel good. This thing, and again, I've seen this man fall. He's tethered to the tower. He's up to it just like I am right now. And when it came down, though, it broke at the 60-foot elevation like this. It broke again at about the 30-foot elevation, and it went through a hole in the top of a roof that you would have said it's impossible to put other than this one piece of tower through the hole, and it pulled that man through that roof. And when you sit up there and you see somebody with their intestines hanging out of them, a double handful like this right here, and if you don't think you can do things, and your buddy's trapped up there in an attic, and you can get some super strength where you see these people pick up car stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I did that. I have no idea how I did that, but I did that. I went up there and picked up this tower, grabbed it, picked him up, took this man and laid him in the floor, and the next day we went back. Of course, I had emergency people coming in and had people calling for paramedics and everything. But the next day when we went over there, we had a guy that's like Ronnie's size, and then we had in Brian's size, a couple of guys. We had a 4x4, and we were using that to try to push up this tower, and we had to use a lot of force to get it out of that ceiling, to pick it up, to get it off of the ceiling. And when I picked it up, it was like picking up this. I can't even hardly remember it in a way. I remember doing it, but it was so easy to do it. And my friend was suffering. He's sitting there telling me, you know, I'm hurt and everything else, and I'm trying to help him just like you would. And I picked that tower up, and they slid a 2x4 up under it. Was another young man there who helped us, and I got it off of him. But, you know, again, had we sit there and spent a little bit more time and went around it, I learned a lot about that day, just like we did over there with that tower sitting on that pad. If I'd have sit there and just said, hey, I'm taking this off, I'm through, I'm close to the bottom, I can just go ahead and jump down off this thing, drop these other 2 sections, I'm good to go. Like I said, I'd have been dead. And so, again, like this right here, these right here are probably in the neighborhood of about $40 a piece. These right here are about $7 a piece.
Now this has obviously been in the weather for a long time, probably longer than this. Look how this is done. That shows that it's low quality steel, it's not galvanized, not coated. Another thing, look what the barrel or you might say the nut part of this is. It's aluminum. And another thing, what this was a hex hollow piece of tubing. It was crushed in enough to put threads in it. So what does that tell you about the strength of this thing? It's probably not real strong.
It will pull out.
It's enough for, holding a clothesline up maybe.
It will pull out.
It will.
And like Dave's saying, it will pull out. This is aluminum. It would not take a heck of a lot to pull that out.
This one may be a little bit better, but it's aluminum too. It was bored, but that's soft. You don't want to trust your life on the soft aluminum.
And then you have something
is
like
steel.
this. And these are things we've taken off of towers. I've taken off towers that, here's this dude sitting right here, and I'm climbing the tower and I'm going up. And I get up here like this right here, and I do like that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's smart, ain't it? Just like you said, here, I can just see it. Me coming off of it. Now, let me ask you something else. I'm climbing this tower. I've got some pretty decent equipment that I use to climb. I'm comfortable with this. I'm good with it. I've got another helmet that I use. It's a lot better than this one. But why in the world, you say the guy who's on top, me working up here, or Larry, whether he's working, why do I need a helmet? Ask somebody who's worked on a red light on top of a tower before, or something that leans over, and there's something wrong with the red light. It touches the red light with his head, and it burns him. Or if it touches an antenna, it burns him. He's saying yes. So, I've seen other guys that's got burn marks on their head.
Well, you got hair, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, that's true. But see, you don't have to worry about that either because you don't sweat, so electricity ain't going to sit there hurt you. So anyway,
You don't do anything to sweat, huh?
Joe and I never pick on each other. You can see that. You got fire insurance, don't you? Yeah, he lives about 4 miles down the road. Don't pay no attention to tomorrow's headlines. So, just remember, it's a coincidence, okay? And arson is one of the hardest crimes there is to prove.
It's on video.
Yeah. How did Homer Simpson say that? Oop. Anyway, now then, as I said today earlier, Larry sits there and says, "Okay, I want you to climb the tower. Help me out, Mike. With whatever." I get up to the tower and I'm climbing it, and how come I cannot? Now I have to be around this tower, hooked to the tower, safety off. Why can't? It's impossible for me to be hooked to this tower, and the way I'm going to say this is, it's impossible for me to be hooked to this tower 100% of the time. Why? Because when I get up to right here where these guy wires are, I've got to take this belt off. And then I can sit over here and I can go above it, get above it. I can sit here and hook back up again.
And it's not just one, it's three of them. Three of them you have to work
You have to go around all three of these right here like this. Now,
Sounds to me like you need a little bit longer belt there.
no, sir, buddy.
No, you don't.
There's a reason for that. Why do I not need a longer belt?
Because you put more, you go out.
That's right. You want to keep center of gravity close to the tower.
You can.
Yeah. Here we are putting this tower up again, and we're putting up another section right here. And I'm up here and I'm shaking this thing around. And believe me, I've been up there with people on towers before. We're putting up other tower sections. Maybe we're standing a couple of sections up. And you get somebody gets carried away and they go to shaking that tower. Where's it weak at? It's weak at right here. And so you sit up here and you stay. You want to keep your center of gravity up close to the tower. Now when once you get up there and you're comfortable, you can lean back a little bit and you want to still make sure everything is steady. There's a new OSHA rule out now that says that when I climb this tower or whoever climbs the tower, we will be safetied off 100% of the time as far as having shock and safety, these safety belts. And it takes a while to do it. It's a good bad thing. It takes forever for me to sit up here and do this right here before I go up any farther. But there's one thing for sure, that if you read in that QST magazine, I don't know, within the past 6 months, I cannot believe this. This man's up 100 foot on a tower. How did it happen? I can't understand that for the life of me. There's one thing that happened, it's for sure, is this. And not only did he not have two, he didn't even have one. I mean, maybe he had it, but he darn sure wasn't hooked to the tower. And so you always, when you climb these things, it does take longer. You always want to be tethered to the tower 100% of the time. And it's required by OSHA, especially if you're going to go out there and you're going to do it with a company. Another thing that I have right here is this is a shock absorbing
Lanyard.
yes, lanyard. It even has
There's expiration date.
yeah. It has an expiration date on it. It has even little gauges on it that shows me if I put any stress on this that I need to get rid of it.
If you fall at all, it's a one-time use.
That's right.
I don't care how it looks.
Right. Or if you sit there and you've got it in your truck and I'm over here and I'm mad, I'm ready to go, whatever, and you pull on it and you release these little stress indicators on it, you throw it away. No second chances.
Another thing, where do you store this thing? In the back of your pickup all the time, all year long? What is this material here? Some kind of nylon. And it may have some resistance to, ultraviolet but you don't want to leave that out in the sunshine, you don't want to leave it out in the weather, store it inside.
Always have expiration dates on them, and if you fall at all, anything over 6 foot, if you fall at all, it's done.
Yeah. But the good thing is if you fall in your 6 foot or whatever you fall at, it's gonna let you down to where you don't break your back. And I was up there going up doing some tower work for Chip over there, and I had a little bag. I barely could get all my equipment in it, and he bought me a really nice bag, feeling bad for me because I drove my Harley up there and was working on this tower for him, and I still have it. Just like Larry said, you don't leave this out in sunlight. This right here is it's part of keeping you alive. You want to take, just like anything else, you take care of it, it'll take care of you.
We got some convenience things too. Look on the side over here, what's he got? Turn around and show this. That's a little utility, a tool bag. He can put screwdrivers, bolts, clamps, wrenches, anything he wants in there. I have a little homemade one that I built. It works good. Has a little carabiner on it. I can clip it onto here, put it on my belt. Don't try to carry all your wrenches in your pocket. I've done that before and that's not really good.
Something that's important to add with the harness that Mike has on, realize that harness is there to protect you if you were to fall. I've seen people, and the videos are out there online, where people fall with the wrong type of harness and get caught, and it cuts their circulation off and kill you, things like that. So proper equipment is important.
And another thing for convenience too, this little platform. You get up on this tower, and it's no big deal. You climb up there. You're up there for about 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Your foot feels like a bird's foot. I mean, it really starts to hurt, and it can cause
burns.
Yeah, what do they call it? Fasciitis or something like that. It causes you pain. What this does, it clamps on. You got to turn this thing kind of sideways here like this. Every time I do it, I have trouble figuring out how to do it. But it goes through here, and you get the idea. What it does, it's just like this. You can stand on it. It makes so much difference in your comfort level. When you're up there, you don't need to be too comfortable, but you don't need to be fatigued. Go ahead and you can make homemade ones. I've seen some homemade ones. You're not depending on your life for this. This is just for convenience and comfort while you're doing it.
And there's a whole lot more. You see people out here, and they say, I'm gonna go climb a tower. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Before I climb a tower, I've got 4 pages of what I look at, what I do, just like somebody pre-flights a plane, and that I have over here. I don't think I've ever been on a tower that I didn't drop something. So everybody on the ground that's down here, one of the things in here is everybody on the ground wears a helmet. Whether it's a bolt or a screw or anything else like this, you drop one from 50 feet, let it hit you in the head, and you may wind up seriously hurt just from a 50-foot drop like that. Much less one of these other tools like this. You always want to let simple things too. And I'm just going to tell you, absolutely have like a lip balm, water. Absolutely have water with you. I've been on towers and stayed on for 7 hours, and I was a tired puppy when I came down. 225 feet tall. Frog and I was on that particular one. I always have, like I say, my little checklist here with everything that I need. You always pre-plan, plan. And one of the very first things you do before you work on a tower, and let me promise you this too, and don't even, even the regular professional tower climbers who do this every day, they go to the weather station channel, a specific weather station channel, and you don't go around a tower if there's any lightning in the area less than 20 miles. If you can hear it, like Larry said, off in the distance, I mean, that's just gonna tell you right there. But you go to there's a weather site, I forget which one it is, but you don't go and touch a tower that's within 20 miles of a storm. I'm pretty sure I got hit by lightning. I don't know for sure. Just off a coax that was hanging down off a freaking dipole that's about 25 foot in the air. It sparked on the end of it like I went across 440. It was a massive flash. I thought actually something had fallen off a power line or something. It was such a massive flash it hit me in the arm. And all it was a static buildup on this dipole antenna outside that I had at my house.
The cautious thing is, if you want to work on a tower, you go outside, it's dense clouds, you don't hear any thunder, don't see any lightning, don't go up it. Wait till the sun shines, because it can come up just like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be lightning bolts. It can be, like Mike said, static buildup in the air because of the molecules of the clouds and so forth.
Here's another good example. We're gonna take and don't worry about it. We had an antenna out beside a house. The guy says, you can have it. So I'm out there and I'm thinking I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna have to use my grinder. It's in the ground, and it's in cement, and I'm gonna have to grind it off. I moved the tower, I did the little mountain bracket on the side of the house, and all of a sudden this thing almost fell over. I grabbed it, fortunately it's a light antenna and everything, and I grabbed it. But again, it was full of water, as you can see right here, and water was probably as deep as this little water line looking thing right here. And had I not been holding on to it, Mr. Jones' Cadillac or whatever else is standing out here, it falls over, or maybe Miss Jones is walking out the door and it falls over on top of her. And you couldn't see this, there was a bunch of grass around it, you couldn't see this at first, and it breaks. So, you got to make sure you stay with it, pay close attention to everything you're doing around these kind of pipes and towers and such. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, we talked about a lot of the
You got about 30 minutes, Larry.
safety items. Yeah, thank you. Safety items. Anybody got any questions on it? We'll talk about it after we get done. I got a couple of things I want to cover. Putting a tower up, first of all, you make sure that you have it in a concrete base. What is the recommended concrete amount on a Roan 25? 1 yard of concrete. That's 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet minimum. That does not make it a freestanding tower though, except for the first section. After that, we need to put guys on it. Now, to stack another piece of tower on top of that, you don't just climb up there and pull it up with a rope and stick it on it. People have done that, not safe. Use what we call a gin pole. Anybody here used a gin pole before? Okay, what this does is it's like a crane sort of. It puts the pulley up there that you're going to use to pull the tower section up above the section there. What you normally want to do is hook your line or rope on the tower section that you're going to put up, just barely above the center line. See where that one piece of guy wire is right there? That's the excellent place to hook it. You do not need to hook it up to the top up there, because you hook at the top, then this thing has to be at least 10 feet above it. You don't want to do that. It won't give you any room for leeway to get it above and back down on top of it. What you do is, you normally can slide this thing down. You have different kinds of these. You slide this down so that it's up there. Now, before you put this on, of course, this thing has to be at the top. Otherwise, you can't ever stand the thing up on top of that. You hook it onto the tower, and then you raise this pole up. Of course, you better already have your rope in there. You would be embarrassed. It'd be hard to get through there. This end right here is what hooks onto the tower. Always hook this, at least one or the other, right above one of the cross sections. That way it cannot slip. You don't rely on the friction of this clamp to keep it from slipping. This one here is made from aluminum. It's T61, T61-6 aluminum. That's aircraft grade or antenna grade. It's very strong. It will not snap. It's not like a piece of aluminum curtain rods.
I got some Harbor Freight rope. I'll give you some brand new pack.
No, let's don't do that.
What
kind of rope? What kind of rope do you reckon? Let's see. All right, they have different types of rope. Now you got polypropylene, which is good. Polypropylene is like ski rope. Polypropylene doesn't stretch. One thing about polypropylene though, out in the weather, sunlight hits it, goes bad in a hurry. This is nylon, but this is not just wound. This is braided. See how it's made? It's braided. It's very strong. It has a little tiny bit of stretch maybe, but not much. This is good. You would never use the smaller stuff here. Never try to pull a tower up with this little 5/16 rope. Never do that. Always use something big. And also make sure that your rope is long enough to go from the ground to the top pulley and back down. Now another thing we'll talk about, if you're going to pull say a heavy section up, and let's draw a tower here real quick. Okay. Now, chin pole, pulley, rope going down to, say a tower sets on the ground here. Pulley goes up. Now you don't want to be underneath this thing while you pull it up, so you don't want to just pull this rope like this. Where would you pull it up from? Up here, like that? What would be wrong with pulling it from there? You are pulling the tower over. What you do is run this rope back down to another pulley that's fastened into there and pull this way. Now if you pull in that direction, you're pulling on the base of it. You are not pulling the tower over.
Remember the center of gravity we was talking about? Me standing up there on it, keeping all the weight. Larry and I both are on one of these towers. It's not recommended to have two people up here, but if it wasn't very tall, we could be on him on one side and me on the other, equal weight. And
See this?
And you must have a pulley at the bottom, like he's talking about. You keep your load center of gravity onto the tower to where you don't have stress like Brian's talking about, where you're trying to pull that tower over. And another thing is if you do try to pull one over like this, it don't take a lot. We go right back here to this part right here. When that tower's pulling into these legs right here, it's trying its best to cut this tower, one of these legs up here, to bend it over, and it will do it. It don't take a whole lot. You can break them. I mean, I've seen it done. So, just like we did on Chip's tower, you put a pulley down here, just like Larry's talking about. You run the rope back down here. You've got all your force and everything coming straight down when you're pulling on it, so you're not pulling against the tower.
This goes in there like that. Strong. Not going to give. Any questions? Okay, let's talk about, you got any more on this?
Not on this. I got some more stuff over here.
Crank-up towers. Tell us about a crank-up tower. What's the advantage of a crank-up tower?
You don't have to put guy wires on it for one thing. Well, I mean, if you're going to use it for temporary and you put one up, you can sit there and crank it up. You know, you can just do it.
You don't have to. You can work on an antenna on a crank-up tower. But what do you always want to make sure before you climb a crank-up tower? What should you do?
Put a grounding strap on.
I'm looking for another answer.
Locked. Sections are locked in place.
Another answer. What's something else? let it down. Never climb a crank-up tower with it up.
That's actually
Now,
on the test.
huh?
That's actually in the test.
Okay.
That's right, it is.
Now, I know of people who claim it's safe if you stick a 4x4 in there. Probably, you know, it might hold. But what if you bump it or something and, you know, theoretically you could kick it and that thing comes out. And what happens when that inside section starts coming down? Yeah, it'll cut your fingers right off.
Or your feet.
A feet. That's happened.
Yeah.
Never climb a crank-up tower unless it's all the way down. But the advantage, of course, is you can always get up and work on the antenna easy, but without, you know, being 100 feet in the air. You can usually get on like a little step ladder and get to your antenna.
The antenna that Arlie was talking about, the tower, it was cemented in the ground. The one that I helped put up was 100 pounds. And we had to climb the tower to get the antenna up there on top of the beam on there. But I had a couple 4x4s and we did put them in the middle of it here. I did look at it, I was feeling comfortable enough that the tower was down enough that it wouldn't cut my feet off, that it was collapsed enough. But again, I think I had 2 4x4s in it, simply slid them in there so it couldn't go more than, you know, a couple inches anyway so it wouldn't hurt me.
Okay, let's talk about putting an antenna on this tower. Typically, say a 60-foot tower will probably have 2 sets of guy wires. Now, you got this antenna on the ground. How are you going to get that thing up there? You got these guy wires in the way. Anybody got any suggestions?
Boom truck.
Boom truck works good. If you got a friend that works in a sign shop, go look on my QRZ page. You can see easy way to do it. But not everybody has that. And I don't know if next time that I do it, I'll have that. Drone, a big heavy drone. Helicopter.
Do you have to use a pulley?
Oh, okay, we got a good idea. How about a trolley? You know what a trolley would be like? You could actually put your antenna over here and pull it right up this guy wire. But do you want to pull it up from up here? No. You want to go up here to a gin pole or something and back down and pull it over here. That way you're as much effort going this way on both sides, so you're not torquing the tower.
That's how I got mine up.
That's a good way. I've done that too. There's another way you can do it too. It has to be done on a windless day. You can take your guy wires here, the center guy wires, and unhook them at the end and drop them down. Pull your antenna up to this point here, and then you have to take these guy wires and maybe loop them or flip them, something, get them over the antenna elements. Hook that back up. Then you have to unhook the top guy wire and pull it down and flip it around so that this antenna that's up here at this point. This has to be done on a windless day. Nobody on the tower.
Yeah, I've never tried that.
This is done pretty commonly.
I'm sure it probably is.
I don't recommend it like that, but I know a lot of people have done that. And again, nobody up next to the tower, way off.
And let me clarify something else too. When I said you don't have to put guy wires on it, I don't mean, if you're gonna use a temporary, we'll say at a Hamfest or something like this, and you put up the tower that, what would we just call it, the crank-up tower, it's a senior moment. Anyway, a crank-up tower, if you put one up temporarily, that's fine. But if I was gonna put it up and leave it for any amount of time, I would certainly guide. I'm not saying just put one up and forget about it. If we were doing it for a field day, I'm not going up very high. I would certainly guide, and you could do it. It's easy to do it as the tower goes up, and you put down your guy wires for the first time. You just guide down. You can leave it there forever, you know. But when you want to take it down, just simply the guy wires go limp, and you can bring it back down if a storm's coming up.
Right. The conclusion of this story about that is take your guy wires, the top guy wires loose at the bottom, and lay them down like that. You'll have to whip them around this antenna that's hanging there. Pull it on up, and then put your guy wires back immediately. Can't do this if there's any wind at all.
And wind does play a factor.
It plays a big factor.
What's the
Larry,
recommendation?
that question. That's all.
Question? Derek?
How do you tension your guy wires?
How do you do what?
Tension your guy wires.
Well, there is a
Tension engaged.
calibrated tension and gauge. I don't know if any ham has got that. Basically, you tighten it up with that turnbuckle until when you hit it, it kind of twangs a little bit. Not much, but you don't want it flopping.
And the ones who use
Answer your
it,
question.
the ones who use it professionally on the big towers, you can see like on YouTube, if the tower, if we'll say the guy wire is torqued to 1,000 pounds, for example, the meter, you'll see it on there, when he gets to 1,001, he'll have the big bolt that's feeding the guy plates on it, the hinge plates. He can take, when he gets to 1,001 pounds, he can turn that bolt. He backs off at 1 pound, that bolt's tight. And they are right on the money, they're accurate, you have to get them, they have to be calibrated. But again, that's these professional guys that's putting up these 1,000 footers out here.
Okay, I got another question.
Say it, yes sir, go ahead.
How do you plumb the antenna when you've got 3 or 4 guy wires?
When I'm going up it, I have a level with me. As I'm going up it, I'm plumbing it the whole time, going up, making sure. I get Larry, or whoever's on the ground, to tighten up a little bit more on this one over here. I'm plumbing it the whole time I'm going up it.
Here's the way I do it.
You plumb on in the center?
You can, but most people use a level. Most people use a level. You level it 2 directions. If you're looking down on your level, you're leveling this leg this way. You level these legs this way.
Right.
That gets all the quadrants. Actually, it's just really one. They're there and there. If this is plumb, of course, we're looking at the end of the tower. If this is plumb up and down, and this one is, then the whole thing is right. Or you can do the plumb bob. Don't use string if you can find some tiny piano wire and a very heavy weight. You don't want a screwdriver on it. Yeah. Use at least channel locks or something. And make sure that if it's fastened right in the center, say this is the tower, that's the top of the section, you fasten right in here, and down at the bottom, it ought to be right in the center of that. And that's pretty well plumbed. Yeah, train's coming in. We got about 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to show you, like I said, I'm going to save the best for last. But this is something, this tower was 60 feet when I took it down. Now, you can see over here, these legs are supposed to slide together, number one, and they, properly. And that's fine. You can also see that these have been cut. And you can also see these people, these right here actually just bumping together. They're flattened. I don't know what they put on it, but they flattened it. The pipe is in here, they flattened it. And these right here are just together. So they decided to put this piece of angle over here and just bolt it to it. Whoever it was, this thing was 60 feet tall. This, say again?
No, we don't even do that.
No, it was, it was a little bit more
The
than that.
person that had this tower, he had worth of at least, I would say, $40,000 on the radios and equipment he had as far as the ham radio goes, but that's his tower.
He had, and Hodges is right, he might have had $50,000 worth. He had very, very, very nice equipment. But he had 2 towers in his yard, and this was one of them. He had $10 worth of towers at best. And this was one of them right here. And this guy, whoever it was, climbed, this was at the 40-foot elevation.
That's a daylight tower.
Yeah.
Daylight through it.
Yeah.
And whoever
Like,
climbed it was just a week before mine got it down. It was just a week before that.
and he climbed this thing, and he went up to the 60-foot elevation to the top of it. and he put a couple of antennas, verticals like 2 meters, and some dipoles off of it. But the thing about it is, he climbed it. Now, how he climbed it, and this thing didn't collapse. I mean, I can't, in my wildest Jimi Hendrix dream, think about somebody trying to climb something like this right here. He's so lucky. I mean, it's even cut. You see, it's cut. And I said, I gotta keep this. And go ahead, Dave.
There was a tower that I took down last summer. That tower was 80 foot. Everything looked perfect. Guide wires looked perfect. We got ready to, where I was gonna do some cutting on it. Went down there to the bottom with the sawzall, and you could touch the blade through it. And I could I almost broke all the way through each section before I turned it on. So towers can be deceiving to how they can stay up. And there was a guy that day climbed the tower to the top and put a rope from there to the tree. And you could see all the way through the bottom of the tower, but mysteriously it was standing.
Joey was with me on this one right here. We got a call from a real estate company, and they said, we got a 40-foot tower over here. Would you like to have it? I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll come get it. I took it because, the only reason I took it is because, number one, I didn't want nobody to get hurt on it. The bottom of it was rusted out. 2 out of 3 sides of it were totally rusted out. Joey was playing with it. He's trying to just step on a rung or two. I told him, I said, don't do it, don't do it. What was funny it had one guy wire off of it, a cable going out to a tree out in front of the house, and then it had about 3 foot of chain, and then it had another piece of cable going around this tree, and this pine tree. And the pine tree was about this big around below the cable, and above the cable, it was about this big around. It had probably been there for 20 years. Am I right? And so, anyway, we're sitting here looking at it, and I kept looking at the top of it, and this is the infamous Mardi Gras Tower. I was looking at it, I'm like, what in the world's in the middle of it? So we get it down, and this guy didn't have 30 cents for any kind of washers from Lowe's or anywhere else. Even the washer, I mean, you don't use Lowe's hardware stuff on towers. You use regular Roan equipment, guy wires, turnbuckles, everything else. You do not use your standard Home Depot and Lowe's hardware for working on towers. But this individual took what's the cheapest aluminum in the world, Mardi Gras doubloons. He didn't have any washers, so he drills holes in Mardi Gras doubloons, and he uses them for washers on this. So now, and I'd heard somebody said this guy had climbed this thing. This is also a home-built tower. As you can see, the rungs on it and everything, the pipes just fit up in it somewhat. They welded it somewhat.
Yeah, it looks a little square.
Yeah, and the whole thing was just this quality right here. So I don't know if I don't know for sure. Somebody said they had climbed it, but can you imagine using Mardi Gras balloons?
Bring that closer to the camera so that they can pick that Mardi Gras.
1976 Mardi Gras.
Yeah, what was it? Is that what it was? I don't remember. It's got a date on it.
You see that?
But anyway,
What's the name on that?
this is the famous Mardi Gras tower.
Let me go over a little bit in review here. Have a plan before you work on your tower. Have a plan. Make sure every worker, helper, knows the plan. Never climb a tower without a helper or a observer there. Wear a hard hat. Never pull sideways on the tower. Oh, towers, one thing we didn't talk about, towers have a load limitation. Never go over that limitation. You can look that up in the book and see that, yes?
I have something to add to that is a common thing that people need to pay attention to when you say load limitation. There's a lot of tower out there called RON 20, and there's a lot of RON 25. They
I've
will
heard
fit
that.
together, but they ain't the same. The load limitations are greatly reduced, and understand what your project, make sure you understand what the equipment is, what your limit.
20, I think, is for TV antennas.
Yeah, basically 20 would have 7 steps, 25 would have 8. The weight differences of what it can hold is significantly different.
And then you got the load wind rating of antennas that you put up. I think RON 25 can handle upwards of like 20 square feet of wind load. Okay, guy wires again. 60% of the height of the tower out from the tower is where your anchor should be, at least 60%. Beware of used towers. I don't say don't use old tower, because I've done it. I've taken a tower like this that had surface rust on it, nothing wrong with that. Take it up to Citronelle and run it through their galvanized plant. It'll be better and stronger than when it came from the wrong factory. If a tower or pole starts to fall, don't try to, support it and don't fall.
Let it fall.
If it's falling that way, you run that way. Quick. Any questions, comments? Arlen?
I got one from
What?
experience. It's ideal to have a hard hat if you're working below it. But if your lineman or tower man hollers headache, don't go, what? Right across the mouth.
Oh, no. Something else. Yes?
Source of hardware locally, if not Lowe's and Home Depot, where? Halsbury Road, my apartment.
Electronic Supply, Holcomb Avenue, Mobile, and some other places I'm not sure where they are. Or online, if you know what you want, yes.
Another thing, it probably wouldn't affect most of us in the amateur community, but make sure the tower is not live. Make sure somebody isn't transmitting something big on.
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
environment. That,
Right, if it's yours, you're probably not.
believe it or not, I
But
see it happen.
I know how. Okay. That's all I got.
Yes, sir.
Have any ideas about push-up poles, and cautionary ideas on those?
I don't really know of any, just common sense. Don't get your hand caught down there, because they'll pinch the fire out of your hand.
One thing with a push-up pole, make sure it extends on the ground freely.
Yes, before you start.
Make sure that it will extend freely before.
And
you
go
worry
back.
about trying to
You
push
need it
back
to go
up.
both ways.
Cause I've seen people get them in a bind and you won't get it out and stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna have a drawing right now. Somebody's fixing to win and one other thing too about this drawing, if you happen to win a radio again, consider unless you wanna give it to somebody else, consider for a redraw so we can, give it to somebody else. I think I have access to a pretty decent amount of radios. But anyway, we've got several of them we're going to give away at each meeting from now on, but we've come up with some other ideas too to give out some to other places, just so we can get some PR stuff going with our club again.
Like everybody sign one,
Yeah.
we're not in there, so everybody else.
Did everybody get a ticket signed, your call sign on it?
Yeah, yours is, Mr. Terry.
She wasn't in here when I was doing
Hold
it.
on, they got their names in here.
That's okay.
Yeah, just your call sign.
Okay.
If they win, then they, sir, what's your name? Kip, come on, Kip, let us know and do the drawing.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Service and, what's your call sign? Oh, well, put your name.
Put your name in there.
T-Ray asked me to
You don't need to have a license for this kind of radio.
Yes? Oh, good.
You do have.
Good, great, that's very good. All right, who else didn't have the name put in?
Anybody else don't have their name in the pot?
All right, Mike, since Mike and I are not in the pot, so.
Not either.
All right, good deal. All right, I'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens there. There you go, Miss Sandy.
W4 ARK.
Right over on the end.
Give Mr. Paul the radio.
Mr. Paul?
I think our next meeting is the 28th of, we hope you enjoyed tonight's meeting. Hope you learned
Is this
something.
yours?
And, anyway, let us know what you want to talk about again. And certainly let Larry know. He's our events coordinator. He's done a really good job. I'd like to thank Larry tonight for everything he did.
Thank you for your attention. Thanks, Mark.
Can I say one thing as a wife?
No.
Well, I'm going to. You got, no, it's not negative. To the extent of when you guys do this kind of thing, think about the fact it takes 1 second to change your life completely. That also changes your wife's life forever. So listen to what you hear, have your plan, make it as safe as you can so that your wife can be a little bit easier. Because, when you've got older men climbing a 60-foot tower, it really is scary because you think about what's gonna happen. So, as a wife, I just say, please, please, always have your plan. Make sure you're confident about it. Make sure you've got other hands there that can help you, because a wife can't do much.
And Sandy, in all seriousness, she is right. It takes one mistake. We're all human again. We can miss things. I mean, Larry's got experience. I've got experience. A lot of you guys have got experience. It takes one time, and life can be over. Yes, sir, Mr. Brian.
I want to let it know to the club, I have no desire to climb a tower, but thank you for the presentation.
We hope to see everybody September the 29th. Thank you very much for being here tonight. You did. We would sure appreciate everybody here. We'll see you next time.
Please, everybody fix your chairs because we want to
Oh, yeah.
make this place.